everybody, to another episode of the Future of BizTech. I'm your host, JC Granger, and I have the pleasure of interviewing partner and creative strategist Stefano Marrone, who is from Unit9. Stefano, tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it that Unit9 does?
Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, JC, that's much appreciated. And yeah, I'm a partner at Unit9, and I work a lot on the creative strategist, role for a number of global brands. Unit9, we call it a global production partner. So our job is to really combine technology and creativity with the best campaigns and very much so around the marketing space, and we do it for global brands. We've done it for now almost 30 years. We're incredibly proud. It goes from Google to EA Sports to fashion brands, Ford, a lot of automotive, you name it. If there is an ambitious brand that has been out there with something that is very challenging from a technology point of view, we've done it. And we're also proud of the fact that we have a lot of recognition. We won more than 50 Cannes Lions, two Emmy Awards, a BAFTA Awards, a lot of Creative Review Annual Awards, a lot of D&AD, almost 40, a lot of One Show, and a lot of FWA. So, being that globally recognized by our industry is something that really matters. And my job is to support on the strategy side to bring all this together for the brands and make them have an impact.
That's awesome. So essentially, I guess for the listeners who might not already have heard of you guys, obviously, you guys make videos, right? But is it more, it's not as simple as that. I get that, right? So let's explain it to everyone. You do, from what I saw on your website, which is incredible work, by the way. So, anybody listening, you should go to Unit9's website. We'll have it at the end. I think it's just Unit and then the number 9.com.
Unit9 as a number.com. Yeah.
Really cool. We're talking high caliber, like cinematic produced style commercials and branding, it looks like. Do I have that correct?
I think that the thing there is really video is a part of it. It's often a part of it, but there is a lot of technology involved. So sometimes there is VR, sometimes there is AR, sometimes there is a mix of the two, sometimes there is experiential. So, films, we have a division called Unit9 Films that has a lot of that high-end level, and also another division called Outsider that does TVC advertising. But then there is a whole slot of technology-driven creative experiences, and that's like a very big part of the business.
Yeah. So, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan personally of like VR and AR. I like AR even better, but I see a lot of the VR stuff. So talk to me about like what kind of companies come to you for this AR VR stuff, right? And then what are they usually asking for? Like what's the most creative experience that you've delivered that maybe one of your favorites?
So I think that's a very good question. And, it's interesting because we have been around, as I said, for almost 30 years. So when we started doing AR experiences and VR experience was as early as the early 2000s, so we've been around the block.
Oh, and really quick, sorry to interrupt, just so everybody knows, VR being virtual reality, AR being augmented reality, where you can still see what's around you, but there's like overlaying things. I just want to make sure everyone's on board so they understand what we're talking about when we say VR versus AR, but go ahead.
Yeah, and to your point though, like VR, it's basically when you put your headset on, right? And so you're isolated somewhat, but you're immersed in that experience. And instead, AR mixes what you're seeing with an augmented experience. And AR, we all have experiences, because we have our phone. So the most basic AR idea is filters on social media, and then there is like several levels. But talking about projects that I'm really proud of, I think that, one thing that I'm super happy about is the work that we've done with Meta called First Encounters, where they trusted us enough to have one of their flagship apps when they launched the latest Oculus model, the Oculus 3. And we were actually co-developing one of their top apps that comes with the headset. So you have it as like to make you try how like the trail of the potential of Oculus. And it's basically something that starts... it's interesting because it starts VR, so it starts completely. It starts AR. It starts in your environment, with the Oculus, so you can see what's around you, and it gradually becomes VR. So the room where you're in is broken into by aliens, and then in
Huh.
time, all the elements just like collapse down, and then you're in a completely alien world. So it's a pretty
Oh wow.
fun way to mix
So
that.
it start like yeah, it starts in my living room, but then it
Yeah,
slowly kind of fades into that immersive reality of, oh, that's
yeah,
really cool. I never thought
it's alien
about
world.
combining
And,
the two like that.
and it's called First Encounters because it's like kind of a fun alien,
Yeah.
engagement game where you have to shoot at them, and every time you shoot, like there is more reality,
Yeah.
space reality that cracks in your world. It's a
You
lot
know
of
what
fun.
you know what I keep seeing right now too is I think my Instagram uh, feed is completely dialed in on my personality because I keep getting these ads of showing these more like brick and mortar companies that are doing fully immersive VR and like AR experiences, like escape rooms or these or like the floor is lava. Like it's like you think that you're trying to jump around and stop this stuff, and then there's other ones where they've got guns. And people are like really freaking out because these experiences are actually extremely real, right? Now I know that's more for the gaming side of it, but I guess
Mhm.
do you guys get in there for that part as well, or is it more for campaign style?
So most of the stuff, I would say, is like on a campaign element, but we also do things that are product driven, if you want. So,
Mhm.
for example, going like completely B2B, there is a big development client of ours called MR in the Emirates, and we ended up creating augmented reality experiences where they could see, for example, undeveloped, soon to be developed. Uh, Location, what that will look like when construction was actually completed. You know,
Mhm.
so you could see
Yeah.
this like, okay, what will the future of this look like? Instead of just you seeing like a little render or 3D model, you could go with your phone and take a look around like what the final, look and feel of that place would look like. So that's a good example of product, focus. Another thing that was one of the most successful, I would say one of the absolutely most successful scientific pieces of content is like we work for a company called EDF that does energy. They're an energy provider in all over Europe. And one of the things that we did for them was like a VR um, journey inside a nuclear reactor. So it was like, how does a nuclear reactor works? And we did it together with nuclear engineers. That wasn't easy. And it's called Nuclear Symphony. And the idea is that you get miniaturized to like the size of an atom, and you see how it works. And it's like this amazing visual things with the atom exploding and whatnot.
Wow.
And, it's almost 4 minute long VR experience that has last time I checked it was 15 million views. You know,
Wow.
and that's pretty amazing if you think about the fact that we're explaining something that is a rather complex scientific topic, and that is where, in a weird way, I think that the brands that need it the most are the ones that have complex things and
Mhm.
complex, propositions and complex products. Because yes, you can make something, and we do a lot of work, for example, for Nike or for Coca-Cola or for Formula One cars. But if you want, they're already cool. But then whenever there is a brand that is complex, like EDF, for example, or this development, then it makes it go to the next level in their category.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Especially, you said F1. And what's cool about that is like that's actually getting pretty big in America pretty fast. I didn't have any friends
I'm in
that
Miami now. Yesterday,
yeah, you
we were.
just had it. You just had it in Miami, the F1 series done there. So I guess it sounds like you said, you guys specialize in doing these kind of projects for the more complicated things, but there's also entertainment factor, and I think this F1 is like a nice mix, right? Where it's a complicated thing that most people don't understand, right? I mean, imagine going into the engine, right, and down at the wheels levels, and while it's racing, coming back up, and even in the cockpit, things like that, where either it sounds like you can help train new drivers in a way, maybe who are just coming into this, and then also the engineers who are working on it and the pit crew. Like it sounds like something that could be designed like that immersive education, but also entertainment at the same time.
It's funny you mentioned that. I don't know if you've done deep research enough that you're inviting
Maybe
me
you
to.
have a leak in your company. Maybe you have an inside guy. You don't know.
No, but there is an amazing project that we did for Ford that was called the Psychology of Performance, where we
Oh.
actually, just to talk to you about like using technology that is not just a setup. We basically created a helmet for drivers, okay, where we put all sorts of sensors that basically track what's happening in their brain as much as possible, so like basically neurological reactions, and we had like proper scientists work with it. And the idea was to test the performance of a driver and whether mindfulness and meditation had an effect
Hmm.
on their performance on the circuit. So we
That's
actually
it.
created the helmet itself, and
Okay.
then we utilized it in driving simulations, as well as on the real track. So
Mhm.
that has been an ongoing relationship with Ford, where we kept creating content in that specific way, and that content, as you say, is between the engagement and entertainment side of things, because you want to make a point about the
Yeah,
ability to do
that's really
this,
cool.
but also technology and R&D in itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said earlier that you guys have been around like 30 years, but so you though came to the company when and like how did you get into Unit 9, right? Because you're a partner, but that, you're not the founder, right? So like what was your journey into Unit 9 period?
Okay, so I started my own company in 2013, and it was a comms agency with a focus on animation and complex value proposition for tech clients, startups, and B2B clients in particular. And after 4 years, when I brought it to a certain size, I was in M&A conversation, a merger and acquisition conversation with multiple um, players, and Unit9 was eventually one of these players, and so they acquired my company. And after an earn-out, so it's the period where you have to stay, within the company to make sure that you don't run with the money and that you leave a good company better than you actually sold it, and actually more ambitiously big. Um, and at the end of it, I got given the opportunity to become a partner of the wider business, and I happily took it, because they are, a great business to be partner of, and it's a fun experience, and you feel like you're there with peers, each on the other the different departments. So yeah, the result was that I bootstrapped and grew my business, and then when it was time to sell it, Unit9 is the group that acquired it.
So and remind me, and I don't know if you already said this, how long have you been there?
So I've been there. The acquisition happened at the end of 2016, so that's
Okay.
like almost 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well so then now that we know you've been there almost a decade, right? I imagine, here's the thing, obviously you guys are doing great, right? I mean, I'm looking at the product and what you guys are doing. There's a huge demand for it. You guys are top of your game and working with the biggest and best companies. But there's
There's
no
always
way
a
that there's no way that there was always rainbows and unicorns. Now, granted, you haven't been there the whole 30 years, so I will only hold you to the 9 that you've been there.
Mhm.
Talk to me about some of the struggles you've gone through. Because remember, I mean, you obviously, you guys you were there before COVID, right?
Mhm.
So did that affect it, or was it you guys were kind of untouched because things went more virtual anyway? Like some industries did better during COVID, just given the nature of the isolation. And I know that a lot of tech companies, a lot of media and experiential companies did really well. But talk to me about like when did it go to crap for like a minute? There had to be a moment.
No, of course. A moment. There's many moments, and the reality of it is like that I can choose many things, but not because I think that the problem is this. When you see a company from the outside, you always think, okay, these guys are great, and like people don't necessarily share the struggles. Then you become a partner, and you see that the bigger the machine, the more things can come from left field. So in a way, having a nice little, like a little tight company like I had, it was around 15 people when I sold it. It's like it's a different beast when you have like hundreds of people that work for you. So COVID was a challenge for two reasons. A, because the filming division had issues because shooting was difficult, right? So even if
Yeah.
the technology one, was going up, that part, and the immersive and experiential one, like was, the immersive one was working, the experiential one was going down. Like the filming was difficult, and then so you do more animation. So I think that there is an element there, and the other problem is that what is the first budget that is slashed is marketing, right? And
Yeah.
we're depending on the marketing budgets. And so during COVID, one of the things that we did that for me really shows, that you can do business by only running spreadsheets, and then you can do business by thinking that the people that you work with are human. And so one thing that we did that I think very few company did is that we did a salary sacrifice period for a long time, and that salary sacrifice to
Of
my
the partners? Of the partners?
no, everyone, including the
Okay.
partners. So
Yeah.
first, you lead by
Yeah.
example. You sacrifice your salary, and you sacrifice most. It was a reverse thing. The higher the position, the bigger percentage of salary was sacrificed. Okay,
Sure.
because
Got
I
it.
think
Okay.
you must learn by lead by example,
Mhm.
um, and to the point that the very junior people got almost no salary sacrifice. And the thing that I'm very proud of is that we gave that money back. So anybody that stayed, I think that within 18 months from implementing that, everybody got their money back, which I think is pretty sweet,
Ah,
and so many
that's
people
really
didn't
fair.
didn't do that. So that was hard, but then the result, was a positive one. Another thing that I think is tricky is when you open new geographies, and there is you know, uh, right after the acquisition, we tried to open a new office specifically on my division in Denmark, and then didn't work well. And there is reasons. The tricky thing to understand why things don't work well is that the variables are so many that, and the money that you have is limited to invest. So it's not that you can run infinite experiments to see what
Yeah.
works. So I think that what went badly for us is that we highly underestimated our country that has potential, but it's a rather small country. There's like 5 million people in Denmark. Um, Needs more time to build relationships. It's like it's small, so they need to, in a way, the complete opposite is the US,
Mhm.
where people are willing to at least talk to you and give you a chance. And instead, I feel that the smaller the place, the more it's based on long-term relationships, and so you shouldn't expect revenues on a
Yeah.
short term.
So, what are some of the struggles you guys have now, and what are you guys doing to address those as a company?
Well, I think that an important thing is this, because we deal with technology, is like it's like this. Do you know? Are you familiar with 007? He has the James Bond. He has the
Yeah.
guy that makes the gadgets for him, like Q.
Yeah.
Right? And it's called Q.
Q. His name's Q.
Yeah. And so our problem is that we are Q. We create the latest, coolest, most badass piece of technology that then is like super. If it goes well, it's amazingly cool, and everybody brags, and we win the best awards, and everybody's happy. And once we actually broke the internet, like we made the Facebook server go down twice when we did an HBO activation
Oh, wow.
online. You can look that up. For us, it was like, yes, that's amazing. But the problem with that is that you have to really think and decide where to do your R&D and where to put the effort in creating new things, and some technologies for reasons that are outside of our control, whether that's something like COVID or whether that's like
Mhm.
a macroeconomic factor, end up not paying back. So the biggest
Sure.
thing recently was the investment in what is called spatial. So I'm
Mhm.
talking about the Apple Vision Pro launch that was supposed to really change things, and it didn't work for a number of reasons. We think that is an amazing technology, and we developed plenty, of it. But the if you want adoption aspect of it, or the stickiness didn't work out, and so some of the investment that was done in that space.
It's usually
uh,
a hardware issue, not a software issue.
yeah, but because we're not just fully in the software space, we do
Yeah.
experiential, and we uh, we play with technology that is in the real world. Sometimes you have elements like that. So I think that that has been something recent that has had an impact. And then there is also the element, I would say, that in a world that has easier and easier funny preset things that can look very impressive at the base level,
Hmm.
educating clients into that aspect of like, yeah, it's all well and good if you do exactly what this little preset does. So imagine
Yeah.
you have like an augmented reality filter that makes you look like you're wearing makeup, just like the
Well,
simple.
yeah, you got the Snapchat filters that do a lot of that, right? That's like
Yeah,
the easiest way for people to think about it anyway.
that's exactly it. So you have your Snapchat filters, you have like your Instagram or TikTok, or like, and the point is, some of that stuff is very impressive, but there is a lot of limitations to it. The second that you say, can I get it doing this other thing?
Yeah.
And we're favorite suppliers in Snapchat, so and with TikTok, we really know their technology. It's almost like the order of investment or understanding of limitation goes up significantly, and the education of clients needs to be very, very high
Yeah.
on that side. Even if you're using all the AI tools and tricks that are available for you, we are not at the level uh, where you can just prompt in what you need. You have this specialized actors and tools that you have to connect and make work. And a very big important part in this is if you want this to reach as many people as possible, you have
Hmm.
to take into account things like bandwidth and what connection you have. And if you say I want a truly global experience, then you have to think about what's the worst possible connection.
Sure.
So that's a big aspect of it.
So, you talk about reach, right? So I guess on that note, how I'm a marketing guy by trade, so I always like to hear how are you guys getting the word out about you? I mean, we know what you do for other people, right? And but how does how does Unit 9 tell the big companies that they exist, or is it just all referrals? Have you guys been around so long that there is no need for any kind of marketing?
I effing wish. No, that sales are the bane of our existence and of everybody's existence, I think, and
Yeah,
it's a constant challenge. So I think that the thing is this: there is an entire universe that is award winning in the space of creative. It's very important. Is something that recognizes your work, not only because of the award itself, but because of on those occasions is when you can shine, talk to people, meet them, stuff like that. So uh, like every year we'll be there at Cannes when they give the equivalent of the Oscars of advertising, the Cannes Lions, and we always try to win some. So far we've done every year, so fingers crossed
yeah.
about this one. So there is that opportunity, but there is also, we really nailed, and it took us a while, an internal system to create case studies. you know so there is
Good.
a lot of it might take a bit, but after every project that is even remotely noteworthy is done, we make a case study, we make a video case study, we make sure to
That's smart.
get
Yeah.
some interesting feedback about like what the challenges were in the production, what the technology used are. And so if you go on our website, what our website is really a ginormous repository of every single thing that was worth sharing that we have done. It's
Nice.
humongous.
That
It's
does
which
that
is
does help. Like that's great for shortening sales cycles and increasing conversion rates. But obviously, more eyeballs on that is always great too. But that is the hard part, right? Like that is in the B2B space, um, that's a challenge for a lot of companies, right? Like so like I get that. Yeah.
But the interesting thing though with the case studies is this, because I'm gonna say maybe something controversial, but I think that the more we go on, the more we have a lack of imagination. If you want, as a society, which means that clients have a lack of imagination too.
Yeah.
So the thing is, why do we have all these case studies? Because it's very difficult to say to somebody, "Oh, you see this thing that we've done for this other industry? It translates perfectly to yours." Like people
Yeah.
don't see it that way. People want to
Yeah.
know that you have something that is at least relevant or adjacent to what they do. So literally allows all our salespeople, our account people, people that are in contact with clients to say, yes, we've done this. Let me send you three
They can,
links.
yeah, then go grab some, right, and send it. And that's really smart for the sales process for sure. So one of my last questions is then, because the future of BizTech, right? So what are your company's kind of 12-month goals? I mean, are you guys trying to scale? Are you like, hey, we're happy with where we're at. We just want to come out with new technology. And also, like, is there any new cool like offerings you guys have coming down the pipeline that you can give our audience an inside track to? Or
Yeah, well, the answer about the technology is a tricky one in the sense that we're always up to date. I have to say that I'm pretty excited about something that in the FMCG world that I'm directly working with, that is going to be one of the biggest scales in terms of augmented reality engagement that we have done. I'm just going to say that our technology will be available to more than 3 billion products made by these
you're
FMCG.
being vague. Now everyone's trying to figure out like, okay,
Yeah,
what's
no, I cannot say more, but
oh
stay tuned on our website. Is amazing. It's amazing.
all right, all right.
It's pretty awesome.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but it's like talking about difficulties when you're talking about like we had to make this work at scale so that
Mhm.
people in China, India, Europe, US have exactly the same experience, and
Yeah.
that's no walk in the park.
No, that
Uh,
yeah, that kind of those kind of international synchronicity as it be is very challenging. But I mean, it sounds like you guys have got a lot going for you. I'm glad that we got to talk. I have my last question basically is, you were your own CEO, you had your own company, and you
mhm.
got bought out, and you decided to stay on with Unit 9, which I think is fantastic. You've been then with them for almost a decade, so you've been around the block. Like you've done a lot, you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot. If there was one piece of advice that you could give to any executive listening right now that might either be in the early stages of their company or maybe they're considering selling, what's some piece of wisdom you could impart on us?
That's a tricky one because it so depends on the size. Um, I think that one important thing is this. You have to understand if you want to build your business to sell or if you want to build your business to be a fun sandbox that is a reflection of yourself, right? So at the beginning of my business, everything I found interesting, I tried to put in the business, you know?
Mhm.
So if I liked animation festivals, I will do something for animation festivals. If I like to do stuff with pharma, and the reality is that as an individual, you're multifaceted, and there's a lot of things that you are. But companies work best when their value proposition is simple, when it's simple to explain what they do, when it's because that is also simple to sell. People
Sure.
understand
Do,
what you're
do that one
doing.
thing great. Do that one thing great,
Yeah.
right?
Or, like have a cluster of products or a group. So Unit9 is a group, but every, Singapore, like films, does films. Outsider
Yeah.
does, above the line films. We have our digital department. We have our experiential department. And so I think that is very important to do that exercise if you're building to sell, to
Mhm.
make sure that the story is consistent, and whatever you really like that doesn't fit within that story, you shouldn't put inside your own company.
Yeah, I like that. Where can people find you personally, Stefano?
Mhm.
And also, where can they find the company?
So Unit9 is simple, unit9 as a number.com. Find us there. And I'm actually quite active on LinkedIn. So if you search me, I have this funny thing, like my LinkedIn handle is like LinkedIn/in/amusing, literally. But you can also type my name, Stefano Marrone, on LinkedIn. And I'm also on Instagram because I've been
Ah,
illustrator, and like I do my own little illustrations that are a reflection on my life and what happens to me in the business life at Sduefy. So is SDUEFY. That's my handle on Instagram.
perfect. I appreciate it. Well, listen, for everybody else who's listening, Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Future of BizTech. Give it a 5-star rating, like it, follow it, share it with all the other tech nerds out there, because otherwise, how else are we going to find cool podcasts like this, right? Stefano, thanks so much for coming on, and I look forward to talking to you more about Unit 9 and all the cool things you guys are doing.
Thank you so much for having me, JC. It was a pleasure.
All right, bye-bye.